Steven, you know what's worse than the Warriors being down 0-2 in the first round of the playoffs?
What?
These Dr. Pimple Popper ads that are showing during the NBA playoffs.
I kind of like them.
You're a sick bastard.
I'm
You
playing the
like
contrarian.
these?
I'm playing the contrarian. It doesn't seem like anybody likes them. No, I don't like them. But I don't know. It is what it is.
Just seems weird every year with the NBA playoffs on TNT. We get some weird promotional thing. So last year it was all the broadcasters going, "Tune in for the secret world of Girls Gone Wild," and now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
we'll be right back on the NBA on TNT. So I got this large cyst on the top of my head, and they just cut it open and blur it out on these fucking commercials. Disgusting as hell.
Yeah, it is. They need to take it off immediately. But yeah, I don't know. That was the first time we'd had a TNT game too, at least on the for the Warriors side of the broadcast. So we got a full dose of it in that last game in game two.
I wish I got that because I was at a bar last night watching the game, and it was more of a Warriors oriented broadcast with Fitz and Buki. So yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So I heard their takes actually made kind of not national news, but when they talked about Draymond and the little stomp in game two, kind of the indecisiveness, I guess, of the broadcast on how to actually approach talking about it because it was a tough one to kind of analyze in real time.
Yeah, we'll get all to it. We'll get to Draymond's stomp. I'll put in quotations. I
Yeah.
even I don't know how to think about it. But what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Just Your Opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. We are in unprecedented territory, I guess you could say, that I tried to say, uh, with the Warriors right now in the playoffs.
Uh huh.
Never in Steph Curry's career has he been down 0-2 in a series, and that's what we're looking at right now. So the game last night, Warriors, you know, everyone's saying from the game one, they lost by 3. They had chances to win that game or tie it and go to overtime. And everyone's reaction after the game is, we know what we need to do. Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Steve Kerr all say the same thing. We'll make the right adjustments and we'll be ready for game 2. And I I know they played worse games that they did last night. Like they got him blown out in games before, playoff games, I should say. Last night was the most frustrated I've ever been watching them. Um, it was, it honestly, like, it was the most disgusted I've been watching them, to be completely honest, in a playoff game. Like
Really?
even last year, I know they got blown out in a Memphis game, but that's just where things are out of your control, and at some point you're just you're gonna lose that game. I thought from the jump, the Warriors played with this frantic nature that I've never seen them play with before. And I know that they've always been turnover prone and whether it's the regular season or the playoffs, they've always had turnovers. But last night to commit 22 and have the
Yeah.
Kings benefit for 25 points is just ridiculous. And the rate that they were doing these turnovers was unbelievable. It's the same
Right.
shit over and over and over again. After that first quarter, where the Warriors were up 23-17, I was disgusted with both teams because there were so many offensive penalties, even by the Kings too. But the Warriors just came out with this, let's just play fast. Let's just play crazy and frantic and not organized and look nothing like they have in the past. I was frustrated.
Really?
And
Can't tell.
well, I mean, like, dude, it was terrible. Like, I don't know if it was them like trying to combat the energy of the arena or they wanted to, you know, show up for E40, but they looked crazy. They looked absolutely nuts last night, and I don't know where the symmetry is gone. They look nothing like they have in the past. They don't move the ball around anymore. It's all just, let me take the ball up the court and play ISO ball. Like, if you would have guessed that the Warriors are the more experienced team, you wouldn't have guessed that from the first 2 games. They look just, I don't know. I'm completely frustrated with the way they played last night.
Well, a couple of things to respond to. One, being down 2-0 in the series, okay, but that's not as daunting as being down 3-1. Like, to be down 2-0 in the series, I don't think that's anything against the Warriors. I don't think that bodes, for the series at all. I just think that's I think that happens to be an impressive stat. I looked at that the other way. I'm like, holy crap, they've never been down 2-0 in a series, and they've been to 8 out of the last 10 playoffs since 2013. So that's pretty impressive in itself. The fact that they've never never started 0-2. Plus, it's always been home court advantage for the Warriors. So being down 0, I'm like, okay, throw that out the window. Who cares about that? That doesn't matter. Being down 3-1 is way worse, and they've done that before, and they've overcome it. So being down 2-0, I understand the percentage chance of them coming back and all that. I think like 7% of teams that have been down 2-0 before have come back to win. So I understand where that's coming from. But to me, they just look like the Warriors on the road that we've seen all season long. And what you said, it wasn't matching the energy of the arena, but it certainly is trying to match the pace of play. Like the Warriors, they have found a team that can match their style of moving quick. And I kind of disagree with you on the just playing ISO ball thing. I think they're passing too much, to be quite honest. I think they're too worried about passing the ball and trying to find a great shot instead of just being like even before Draymond got ejected, and I know we'll get to that, but like there's a couple of just wide open layups and guys always looking to pass. Sometimes I just want these guys to score. And it's not just the starters, it's their bench players too. They don't really have the same type of bench last year. I mean, are you surprised with the way they played? Like this team has not been that good for the entirety of the season. They've been, outside of what happened towards the end of the year, like they were a 500 team. And I think what you saw last night was the product of a 500 team that has been one of the worst on the road.
No, I mean, I'm not surprised because I think before this, I was, kind of lowering my expectations a little bit just
Yeah.
because this is probably my least favorite Warrior team during the Steve Kerr era,
Mm.
honestly. Like, there really was nothing special about this team this season. Yes, they made it to the playoffs, but I had more fun watching the Steph Curry team a couple years ago where Klay Thompson got hurt right before the season started, and Steph carried that team to the play-in game against the Lakers. They lost, and the Grizzlies they lost. But no, they haven't. If we were expecting for them to turn on a light switch and then become the playoff Warriors, it hasn't happened yet. Yes, they
No.
look like the same team from the whole season, and they've played like shit on the road, and they continue to play like shit on the road. So I'm not really surprised. I just don't really like, you know, I don't know. They're supposed to be the more experienced team, and that's why everyone's favoring them. And that's why I asked before the series started, should they be favored? And right now, it's kind of clear to me that the Kings, for the moment, are the better team. They are. They may not have as much talent as the Warriors, but they work together as a team. And I don't know what has transpired, but they have lost their way in a sense of not being on the same page with everybody, in my opinion. And I know
Well,
what you're saying with
you can make the case they haven't found their way all season long, though.
no, I don't think they have. I think they've been lost since the get go with Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole, but they've
Right.
managed to get by that to win 44 games and make it to the playoffs. But there still is something about them that is not all there. And I hear you, Steven, on them passing too much at times, but also like I know Jordan Poole played with half a foot last night, as Klay Thompson put it, but he was terrible. And he goes up the court and has no plan whatsoever. He's just running up the court by himself and then just throws the ball up in the air and hopes for a basket, and it looks bad. He was 1 for 7 last night for 4 points. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson weren't that much better. They combined to go 16 of 34 from the field. I I I just struggle with the fact that to me, they look like the Mark Jackson Warriors that didn't have a plan, that he just, didn't draw up plays for them. He just said, go out, you're the more talented team, go out and figure it out. And that's what it kind of felt like the last two games. And I love Steve Kerr, but I think Mike Brown has outcoached him the last two games. I think that you kind of hit it perfectly, Steven. The Kings have matched their intensity. Mike Brown has set his team up perfectly for the playoffs to play this team because he knows them so well. And they talked about, oh, we'll make the adjustments. De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk will not go off as much as the first game. They didn't go off the same amount. They didn't combine for 70 points, but no one could stop De'Aaron Fox last night. Sabonis had a better game. Kevon Looney got in foul trouble really early on, and they were screwed from that standpoint from the second half. So then they had to revert to these weird lineups where they were playing Moses Moody, and he's afraid to shoot the ball. So I don't know where they're at right now, to be completely honest. Now, can they come back and win this series? Of course they can. Like they always say in the NBA playoffs, the series doesn't start until a road team wins. So the Warriors still can win this series and win 4 straight. But I don't like the way they look right now. And I just haven't felt this confident, or this is the least confident I felt in a Warriors playoff team in quite some time. And I kind of, knew that going into the playoffs with them as a 6 seed, but I just don't like their body language, and I don't like that the way that I mean, it just goes to show how talented they are because they still had chances to win that game last night. And even if they pulled that game out of their ass with if Clay and Steph just went off in the fourth quarter, I still would be a little disappointed. Now I would be ecstatic that they won the game, but for 3 quarters, I thought they played terrible. I really do, and it's just the way that they look. They're not on the same page. It's a strong contrast to what was this team a year ago when we watched the first 2 games where Jordan Poole was starting and Steph Curry was coming off the bench, and they had this amazing lethal offense against the Denver Nuggets, and it's nowhere near that. I don't know what has happened. I don't know if they just got that old so fast, or they just don't buy into the offense that Steve Kerr has always said was going to work. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, they're not as talented as last year. Like that's just it. GP2, like I like he hasn't made any standout plays like he normally has in the postseason. I haven't seen this perimeter best perimeter defender in the NBA type player. Like I haven't seen that from him. These guys on the bench, Dante DiVincenzo, not scoring anything. Like the Kings as a team are outplaying them, and what you're seeing right now is a product of a team who figured out what their strengths were early in the regular season, and they just played to it every single game, and that's why they have so many wins, and that's why they're third in the Western Conference right now. Like they are the more talented team, at least top to bottom. Maybe not so much at the top. Obviously, I'd take Steph Curry maybe over anyone on that team. It's tough between him and De'Aaron Fox, but I think I'd take Steph Curry over anyone on the Kings. But other than that, like right now in the series, like Davion Mitchell, off the bench, the way that he's playing defense. I mentioned De'Aaron Fox; he's been the best player on the floor. Domantas Sabonis continues to grab offensive rebounds. It's just nonstop. The second chance points that the team's getting is unreal. And then the turnovers, they're still an issue, and they're always going to be an issue. So, in the end, man, like this is what the team's been on the road, though. Like that's what they've been. They look like polar opposites at home, and no one has an answer for it. That includes Steve Kerr. That includes Steph. No matter how much, like it's been the same pattern every single road game. It's one of two things. It's either we need to get off to a better start. That's what Steph Curry was saying last night. He's like, we need to get it off to a better start, but we need to execute later on too. I mean, he feels we could do that. We're confident we could do that. And he even called it delusion at one point, which is what you probably get as 4-time champs. But like the Jordan Poole turnover, I can't stop thinking about that one where he just threw it into the stands into like the third row. Like what was that?
Yeah,
It's unfocused basketball, but it's the team we've seen on the road from the Warriors all season. So
I know, but this is the fucking playoffs now.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's still a road game. Still a road game, and it's still the same team regardless. Now, I think they can come home and win 2 straight. It seems like in the regular season they've been able to do that. So, I'm going to just throw these 2 away. But if they look like the same team at home, then you got to wonder, like, did the 4 championships maybe get to their head? And, maybe they felt that the Kings weren't up to the test of what the Warriors would bring. Because, in that fourth quarter, you got to give the Kings credit, man. When they tied the game, when the Warriors did, and Draymond was gone, and I think that was like 3 minutes after he did, they tied it with 4 minutes left, I think.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they did, the Kings answered. Like they answered that test. Like a lot of teams would get debilitated at that point. They'd be like, "Damn, this war," and kind of get scared a little bit. I don't think the Kings were
No.
feeling that way, and I don't think it's just we always talked about Mike Brown. I don't think it's just him. It's also Harrison Barnes too. Understanding like, hey, this team's not going to slow up late in the fourth quarter. We can't take our foot off the gas, and that's how the Kings operated last night.
Yeah, I think they have the perfect coach for this situation to take on this team and to play with their energy and to play at their pace.
Jesse made this observation. He kind of looks like Thanos at certain angles from the camera. Mike Brown.
Hmm.
He kind of looks like Thanos. There was one shot of him where he's like got his chin up. I think it was during the review for the play between Draymond and Sabonis. But he had like his chin up, and since he's bald, shout out to you, Mike Brown, and shout out to you, Derek. Shout out to the bald people. He kind of looked like Thanos.
So is Jesse saying that all ball people look like Thanos?
No, but specifically Mike Brown because of
Yeah,
the
I
of
don't
the
I don't see it at all.
of the face shape. It's not all the time. It's not all the time. It's just one camera angle
So
specifically.
do you agree with her?
I did in that camera angle, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it at all.
You're not looking at the same camera angle I am.
Well,
Yet.
show me the damn camera angle, then I'll agree with you.
I don't have it.
Well, then how, Steven, you're not prepared. You don't have your pictures of your broken shoulder. You can't show me this camera angle. Jesus.
I'm not. You just came out guns a-blazing. I'm trying to lighten the mood here. You seem pissed.
I'm just a little disappointed. And you
just
know what?
Little.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, if this is starting to set in a little bit, that maybe this is the end. And I don't want to go there yet, but I just don't have a good feeling. Like, this is the most. I don't know. They just don't seem like a good team this year, and that comes with age, and that comes with complacency after winning so many championships. But I don't know. Like, I thought they would steal one game at Golden One Center and prove everybody wrong with this road stuff. But now I don't even know right now. So if they tie the series up at 2-2, fantastic. That's what they need to do, and I expect them to do that. But they got to, in order to win this series, they got to win on the road.
Yeah. Well, they got 3 more chances to do that. So I don't know whether you think they can or not. I mean, that's subjective for whoever. And quite frankly, though, my answer is, I don't think they can. Like based on this series and based on how they played on the road all season.
Like right now, you would say you give the edge to the Kings.
Oh yeah, I would. Like I don't like this team doesn't fall into that category of the 7% that have won when they're down 2-0. Like when they were down 3-1, that was the team during the 73 win season. That was the best team of all time. This has been a team that has not figured it out. So I personally don't see them winning the next 4 of 5 games. I just don't see it happening.
I could see it happening. It's just a little disappointing that So last night I'm watching them play, and I just got frustrated because it's sloppy basketball. We talked about the turnovers, but also they're just undisciplined. They're not focused. They're not the more poised team. They just don't play like the Warriors right now. And what separates them from every other team in basketball, even without Kevin Durant, last year they did the same stuff with Jordan Poole, was their ball movement. And I understand what you're saying with moving the ball too much and creating turnovers, but they did it smartly. They did it with just the most beautiful offense you see in basketball. And that's why I was so frustrated watching the Phoenix Suns on Sunday night, because they have so much talent on the floor, and yet they just want to operate by Kevin Durant, pass it to Devin Booker, then Devin Booker takes it up and tries to put the ball in. Move the ball around.
You see KD is getting the same criticism that he was getting with the Warriors in their first year in the playoffs with him. He's not being aggressive enough. He's too nervous about trying to get the ball to others and not being the main guy.
I didn't mind him facilitating it and dishing out however many assists he had, but yeah, he needs to take the game over a little bit. But also, that team would be lethal if they play like the Warriors. And I know Kevin Durant hated that, I guess. He always wanted the ball in his hands. That's the big thing with, star players, is they never wanted to go with what Phil Jackson wanted to do or, what Steve Kerr wants to do with the Warriors. Because at the end of the day, the ball's going to end up with their hand, with the shot. But it's how you create the shot. It's how you get open looks. And I don't think the Warriors are doing that right now. it looks like Steph Curry just takes the ball up the court. He tries to find an open lane, tries to go for a layup or shoots a three. Or Jordan Poole just tries to beat everybody to the basket because he's super fast. No one's finding Klay Thompson or looking around to create movement. It just doesn't look like the Warriors. And I don't know what the hell's going on. Maybe they're
Well,
missing Mike Brown too much. It's just not good looking basketball to me.
I don't think we also credited the Kings defense enough though.
No,
They
that's
have
fair.
for, they have forced them into a lot of these bad shots. Like some of these defensive possessions late in the game, they're not letting up, you know? Like these stories of guarding Steph, it's been mentioned after every game, whether it's from Fox or from Mitchell so far in the first two games. It's guarding Steph's no easy task, but I'm up for the challenge and I'm doing it. And that's the thing. That's the thing is there's no other guys. You haven't had a game yet, and you need these types on the road where one of the other guys goes off. And I'm not saying no, they need. I'm not saying that they need like another. Um, I'm not saying that they need like a 30-point game from any other guys from the bench. But if you remember last year, there'd be spurts where GP2 or Otto Porter Jr. kind of take over for not the game, but for maybe, you know, three or four possessions where it's just like they randomly like in just these little spurts where it's like give the defense something else to think about. I remember that last year, Otto Porter Jr. making a bunch of threes in the second half, and then all of a sudden he opens things up for everyone else. They don't have that right now. And Jordan Poole is supposed to be that guy, and unfortunately, he's playing hurt. Like there's no doubt about it. He probably shouldn't have played yesterday, but the Warriors don't really have another choice. Like, and this all goes back to like I think the Warriors predicted that this would, or at least the front office predicted that this would happen, that this type of decline, and that's why they tried drafting these guys like Wiseman and Kaminga and Moody, and they did not pan out the way that they thought they would. Like Kaminga just there's a certain what's the word? I guess a disconnect between Kaminga and Kerr, at least in the postseason, because there are times when I mean, yesterday he actually had a couple of plays where he got a couple of loose balls and kept the ball in play, but in game one he wasn't rebounding. He was just looking to score instead of doing all the other little things. So yeah, it's just a mess, dude. It's a mess compared to a lot of other seasons.
Yeah. And yeah, going back to what the Kings have done defensively, they've done a great job. Like, it was interesting last night to see two guys doubling Steph Curry when he hits the midcourt, and that's just a
Mm,
great defensive game plan. They've done a great job. But I think the Warriors have helped too with the amount of turnovers that they have created themselves. I
right.
I think the Kings have played great, no doubt. But if the Warriors were anywhere near to what they used to be, I think they're up this series 2-0. But that's not the case. So I don't know. I don't know. I I I, I hate the mentality that them just going home is going to make things better. Like that happens a lot in playoff basketball. Like we saw it a couple years ago when the Warriors played the Rockets. The Warriors went up 2-0 and the Rockets tied the series 2-2. And then things got crazy with Kevin Durant hurting his Achilles. That was before he actually tore it, but then the Warriors had to beat the Rockets without Kevin Durant. So I
Mm,
don't know. I think that they just need to get one game and we'll see where it goes from there. But last night I just didn't like the way they played at all. I thought that they looked, to be quite honest, this is going to sound pretty arrogant as a Warriors fan. They look like they look like every other team in the NBA. They did not look like the Warriors that we've seen the last 8 years. And maybe that's just the sign of the times that they are slowly declining, and this is just what it is right now. They're not going to be as focused as they are at home as they are on the road. And they have gotten complacent with the 4 championships. But then again, they could turn it on at home and then they figure it out. I don't know. Who knows? I just think we haven't seen it yet. They look like the same team all goddamn season. And last night, just to see their performance was disappointing.
right. Yeah, agreed. So let's talk about Draymond.
We will, but I
Oh,
I want to see this picture or this angle that you and Jesse are talking about with Mike Brown.
yeah.
It's like,
It was the angle, all chin and neck. Telling you, dude, he was looking up. He had the chin angled upwards. He was kind of like that. so you couldn't really see the chin so much, but he looked incredibly strong and just the menacing look on his face. Yeah, he had a Thanos look to him.
Oh well, I wouldn't mess with Mike Brown after you see that one clip of him where he just yelling because some guy in the locker room is yelling too.
No.
Oh, he's doing an interview and some guy's screaming and he just goes ah.
I don't know. Like Mike Brown is up there among coaches.
I
Like
love Mike Brown.
all I needed was one phone interview on 95.7 to get an idea of like the type of person that he is, because like they hit him with some rapid fire quick questions, and and just the way that he explains things, the way that he laughs about certain things and actually seems to have a sense of humor,
Oh yeah.
um and while appearing to sound like a cool dude, like he's up there among coaches that you'd feel comfortable maybe, talking to in a public setting. He seems like a very welcoming type of person, though not that side angle, though. That side angle, he looked like Thanos. Don't mess with him.
I'm just trying to think of a Thanos line. I don't really know that much.
I don't know either.
All roads that led back to me. Is that
I
something?
don't know. Like, that would have been crazy if he snapped. Could you imagine if he snapped during that game? Like,
Sure.
if he snaps for a challenge,
That'd actually pretty be that'd be a boss move actually.
that'd be badass. Badass, man.
All right. So Draymond last night.
Uh-huh.
This took place after a kind of a ticky-tacky foul call that later was challenged by Steve Kerr, where under the basket, Draymond bumped into Sabonis.
Uh-huh.
And that was when Draymond was already in foul trouble, so that would have been his fifth foul. Memory serves me correct.
Yes.
But then moments later, with how much time left?
7 minutes. Just over seven.
Yeah,
7:02 if you want to
7:43
be.
left in the fourth quarter. Draymond, uh, you know, he gets his leg wrapped up by Domantas Sabonis, and he tries to kind of kick his way out of it, and in the process, steps on Sabonis, and he did bring his foot down a little aggressive, um, and that led to Sabonis writhing in pain on the floor, and it led to a review of whether or not Draymond should be thrown out of the game. And then it led to Draymond hopping up on the scores table and just yelling back at the Kings crowd and screaming things. A clear, lip read of him calling someone a pussy. And,
Mm-hmm.
across the way, Adam Silver is all watching this. And then he gets ejected. It's a flagrant 2. And people today are saying that Draymond should be suspended for game 3. He's not going to be suspended. Shams Charania came out with a report that it's more than likely he will play. My quick thoughts on the whole situation. Sabonis, what the fuck are you doing grabbing his leg? Like that's something's like people bait Draymond. That is true. From LeBron back in 2016 to, last year, whatever happened with Draymond, where he got thrown out of the game against the Grizzlies in game 1, to last night, where he lost his cool, and I don't even know if he lost his cool. He was just like, "Get off me!" But did he need to step on him like that? No. And everyone's saying he stomped on him. I think that's a little aggressive. It wasn't like I saw Evan, our guy, tweeted this out. It wasn't like a Dominic Sue stomping on Aaron Rodgers. It
Right.
was aggressive. He did not need to do that. But also, I can understand your frustration at the same time. Just like, this guy's grabbing my leg. Now, did Draymond need to go up on the scorers table and do all that stuff? No. I think also in that moment he knew he was getting tossed and he wanted to rile up his team to come back and win that game. But they also needed him in those last 7 minutes. Like, they tied the game up and they could have used him. So I don't like. It's just a 1-game thing. Like, he probably will get fined for it, but also at the end of the day, like, okay, he did it. It sucked, but let's move on.
That's the thing. That was my. I'm seeing all these arguments about it earlier this week this morning. It's just like people analyzing the film, going through the slow mo, like talking about how like there's every possible angle from, and I'm obviously ingrained within the Warriors Twitter, but it was a lot of just trying to find any way in which it was the Kings' fault, which it mostly was. It was Sabonis, but also Draymond was being Draymond, and that's going to get him suspended. It was a flagrant 2. I did have one like alternative though. and maybe this is just wrong. I know Draymond wanted to get back on offense, but I don't think he had any intention to get back on offense. I think he had every intention to show the refs that he was grabbing his ankle, or Sabonis was grabbing his ankle. Why didn't he just why did he not just stand there and just like put his hands up and just show like, hey, Sabonis has his arm wrapped around my ankle right now. Like, what am I supposed to do? Instead of like trying to aggressively get out of it, because that's what makes me think this step was intentional. It's just like get off me, and then maybe it wasn't a stomp, but I think it hurt. I think it hits a lot harder than it appears on the video. No, it wasn't an Indomitian Sue type of thing, but in real time, I think that looked pretty bad. So I don't know. I can't step into these players' shoes and say what they should or shouldn't do. Sabonis said he was
Nice pun
protecting
there.
himself. So, so Sabonis said he was protecting himself. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. Everyone's calling him dirty. I know that like he grabbed Clay. It looked like he was just trying to protect his fall by grabbing onto a jersey. Maybe he's just a clumsy big man. Maybe he's just a clumsy
Probably.
7 foot guy. Maybe he was trying to bring down Clay too. I don't know what it was, but him wrapping his arm around Draymond's ankle, that is certain. I don't know where the protection's coming from there. Like, what are you trying to protect yourself from? Like, that's what I didn't really understand.
Yeah, and also like his tune kind of changed at the post game where
Yeah,
at first on TNT he said, it's just basketball, it is what it is, and then he said, oh, there's no room for that in the game. Draymond also in the post game said that it's 2 games in a row now that his foot's been grabbed, and no one seems to care, and he's not a flexible dude. So where is he supposed to put his foot? Draymond could have easily just fell to the ground and been like, "What the hell? Look at this guy. He's grabbing my foot."
yeah,
Instead, Draymond got angry and wanted to show him up a little bit. I'm not
yeah,
saying that Draymond's innocent in this situation at all. I just think that both guys are guilty. Was it a flagrant two? Yeah, probably. The right outcome should have happened last night. I agree with everything that went down. But let's move on now. It doesn't need to be a whole thing of like, well, can you believe Draymond Green is playing in this game tonight? Yeah, he is. So let's just move on. Let's just move on to game 3. I, you know, it's just Draymond being Draymond at this point. Like anything that happens with this guy is always going to be, in his eyes, not the biggest thing in the world.
right,
From him punching Jordan Poole to him being suspended for the playoffs, the Warriors need his animated aggressiveness. They need that as in a fiery leader. But sometimes it bites him in the ass, and it happens a lot. Draymond's a great player, but last night was also an indication of why I believe that this will be his final season with the Warriors. It's just sometimes enough is enough. Like watching him stand up on the scorer's table and Steve Kerr just standing there with his hand over his mouth, like almost like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, am I supposed to rip him down right now and say get off the scorer's table? I know Steve was also planning for, I got to make the right adjustments here. So I know that this guy's going to leave soon. So we got to, plan for that. In others, in years past, I know that Draymond's his own guy and he's going to do what he wants to do and no one stops him. But would Mike Brown have been that guy in the past and been like, hey, stop this? Like, what are you doing? Like, I thought it was a lot last night for him to jump up on the scorer's table and kind of get at the Kings crowd and be like, I'll take all of you on right now. Like it got to a level that was like, all right, this is aggressive.
right.
And, you know, I understand that he was trying to rile everybody up, but I don't know. I it it just it coincided with them playing so poorly that I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like this is just a shit show all the way around. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but also I think it's a reminder of why the Warriors are kind of fed up with Draymond a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the with the thing to the crowd, I know Adam Silver was there, but I'm sure he heard what the fans were saying too. And I'm sure it doesn't. What Draymond said does not just. He doesn't say that lightly. I'm sure he had something said to him, and he was responding to somebody, and then just screaming in their face. And you could tell things were like the the tension was starting to build with him and Sabonis through the game. Like there was multiple times. I mean, there was multiple times where Draymond just clapped right in his face, and it's happened twice this series so far. So it kind of felt like it was going to reach a boiling point. I didn't think it was going to maybe in game two, but I also think Sabonis recognized that, and I think it's. I personally think um, Draymond, I think he has to be better in those situations. Not so much with the crowd, whatever, but it's this guy's not like impenetrable in terms of his attitude. Last year, he said straight up, the Celtics crowd got to me, and that's as a three-time champ. It's not like in the fourth championship. I still think uh, I still think he's not this dude who's just made of stone and doesn't get affected by anything. Like he still does. The Kings realize that. And you think Mike Brown doesn't know that? Like I think Mike Brown had a little say in like, hey, you get a chance to egg him on a little bit. Don't be afraid to do that because he will explode. You know what I mean? Like
And that's
Brown
good
knows that.
coaching. That's good
Yeah.
coaching. How many times has Draymond fallen for the cheese in the mousetrap?
In the mount. Ooh, look at you with a little metaphor. Quite a bit.
Yeah, and
Quite a bit.
I go back to the 2016 finals where he sat down game 7 after they lost and said, I need to look at myself and change as a man and how angry I get and how aggressive I get, and maybe need to look at myself and change how I play on the court. And that never happened. That never happened. Now, has it benefited Draymond Green in being a 4-time champion and also being Defensive Player of the Year, getting all these accolades? Yes. But it also has been a detriment to his career.
Yeah.
So I, again, I've said this since last June, July. I think Draymond's going to be gone once this playoff run is over. And while I don't think last night was the end of the world, I do think it was just a reminder of things are going to change. And Steve, it's been well documented. You've seen it on TV with Steve Kerr mouthing to Mike Brown, "I'm sick of Draymond shit."
Hmm.
So I I think
Well,
things are going to change.
he's a fascinating player to evaluate, though, isn't he? Because
No,
you say it's
100%.
because you say it's been a detriment to his career, but then I guarantee you he'd argue on the other side of that, saying, that fire, that passion that he has, that's part of the reason why he's a four-time champ and has all these accolades and all these different things.
No,
But then you'd retort with, well, you also are playing with two of the greatest shooters that the NBA's ever seen, and a player who's revolutionized the game of basketball.
of course, but then it also, kind of clouds his judgment a little bit in the sense that, they does a documentary about punching Jordan Poole and he says like, well, no one could judge me. Whatever.
Right.
Listen, I respect Draymond Green in a lot of ways as being a fantastic basketball player and really just one of the highest IQs you'll ever see in the game and really knowledgeable, will have a great career in the media or even as a coach. But his own anger and just the way he, you know, goes about, his anger has gone to the best of him throughout his career.
No,
And
if he wasn't as just like this dude, he's been so good defensively through his career. Like if he wasn't an all-time type of defender, like an all NBA caliber defender, we'd be talking about him differently. We would not be talking about him. We'd be talking about him in the same vein that people talk about, Rasheed Wallace, or the same vein that people talk about uh um, maybe not so much Ron Artest. Ron Artest was a little crazier than that, but like in the same vein as those guys,
yeah,
where it's like his attitude was the detriment. So it's a good thing he's with the Warriors, man,
yeah,
because like if he didn't have these type of championships, he what he'd be look like. He'd be looked at as Patrick Beverly. People love Patrick Beverly, but also people make fun of Patrick Beverly a
yeah.
lot. So
Well,
I
non-Warrior fans hate Draymond,
yeah, yeah. But like
but
also
he doesn't
he's
care.
but he's also a champion too.
Yeah,
And
and listen, he's been a fantastic player throughout his career,
yeah.
but you know, and again, like I wasn't even that up in arms about what happened last night, but It wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
and sure as hell, like the player option that he has after this season, I know that he wants a max contract, but
Well, so does Clay now, apparently.
oh boy. Well, it does not seem like the Warriors are going to like if you had to pick between the two, Clay's like if the Warriors had to pick between the two, Clay would get that max. I don't
I
think
think
they
it's
choose Draymond to get that.
I think it's already been decided.
You think so?
Jordan Poole got the contract. Andrew Wiggins got the contract. Draymond
Yeah.
Green did not. And
Yeah.
listen, I don't know anything, but you can't tell me that that didn't at least kind of factor into the punch that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of signal the end there. But also, yeah, and this is something that's to be talked about later down the line. With all this being said, I know we've kind of, or at least I've kind of swayed this conversation into, well, the Draymond needed the Warriors. Well, that's not the case. I do think the Warriors also need Draymond, and
Yeah, they know.
I think putting all your eggs into the basket of um, Wiggins and Poole, and it's tough to imagine. Like this team was hovering over 500 this year, even with Steph, a revamped Clay Thompson, Draymond Green. He's been playing hurt, especially towards the end of the year, but you still had him for a majority of the season. The only guy they've missed really is Wiggins. But it seems like they're going to have to do some special stuff in free agency if they want to keep up, any of these postseason appearances, because then you'll end up just looking maybe like, I don't know, the Timberwolves or something.
The Warriors aren't four-time champions without Draymond Green. So I don't want to, denigrate anything that he's accomplished with
Yeah.
this team. He's a champion and he's a great player. But
But so it's always
sometimes,
hard, man. It's always hard in these conversations,
well, so sometimes things just come to an end, and
Yeah.
that's what it kind of felt like a little bit. Not like last night was indicative of that, but just this whole season kind of feels that way. And back to Andrew Wiggins real quick. I remember a year ago I said like we need to see like an Andrew Wiggins game where he kind of explodes to the rim and kind of plays you know
Aggressive.
aggressive. Um, and he did later on. Like there was a slam dunk against the Mavericks that will go
Oh,
down in history.
oh yeah.
The Kings are letting Andrew Wiggins shoot from the outside from 3-point range, and they are not scared of him. And Andrew Wiggins needs to be more aggressive to the basket. I do not like him shooting threes at all. He's hasn't played as much basketball as he thinks he has in the last 3 months. He needs to dish the ball a little bit more from outside range to Clay or Steph, or go to the hoop. I don't want him settling for threes as much as he has.
Especially with his athleticism too. It's the same thing I it's the same kind of thing I think about with Jonathan Kaminga. Like if you have a one-on-one situation, you may have a wide open three, but you also don't have many around you because everyone's kind of focused on, maybe the other scorers around the court. Just take it to the hoop. Try and draw a foul. Do something. Like you can't go through another game where Wiggins has more three-pointers than free throws. That can't happen.
Yeah.
Like 3-point attempts rather than free throws. And actually, I think he made the same amount of threes as he did free throws. Only 2 free throws last night. That can't happen for Wiggins. Just can't.
And also back to Mike Brown and kind of telling his players to get after a little bit with Draymond. Mike Brown, to his credit, in the post game they asked him about the incident, and he said, definitely a flagrant two, and I'd be interested to see what the NBA does. Kind of taking a page out of Steve Kerr's book a little bit last year, where Steve was trying to get Dylan Brooks suspended for the action on Gary Payton II. Not exactly the same because
Well,
he
Kirk
kind
called
of,
it a dirty play
of
straight up, didn't
course,
he?
but
Yeah.
yes, he did. But Mike Brown, I guess, kind of pulling a page out of LeBron James when LeBron James teabagged Draymond, and that led to the punch. And LeBron at the post game saying, "I wonder what the NBA does about it." Kind of leading it up to them like he could get suspended. We'll see,
Yeah. Yeah. Not
but
taking it off the table.
doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. He shouldn't be suspended for that. I don't think that it warrants a suspension. It wasn't. It was an aggressive move, but it wasn't exactly a dirty move, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, even listening to the broadcast too from 95.7 from Tim Roy and your guy Tom. Like, it wasn't actually Tom who said it, but they immediately like looked at Draymond at fault in that situation. Immediately, it was, oh, Draymond can't be doing that, as
Oh, of
opposed to
course.
in quick view of the replay when you're calling it live, like that's and that's what I think also plays into the flagrant two thing. Like everyone in the morning is playing, the Tuesday morning. I don't know what you want to call it. The Tuesday morning point guard.
The
What's the
equivalent to
opposite?
Monday morning quarterback.
What's the Monday morning quarterback? Tuesday morning point guard. The Tuesday
Sure.
morning. I don't know.
Point, yeah,
Whatever.
whatever.
But the Tuesday morning 2 minute report by the fans. But
Not bad.
everyone's able to, you know, psychoanalyze this thing and go crazy about it, stay up all night analyzing the video. But on real time, you're immediately thinking, oh, geez, Draymond's at fault there, And even Tim Roy was like, yeah, that could warrant a suspension, And he's part of the team really, and
Yeah.
so that's I don't know. People can get up in arms about it, but like you mentioned, and like you set this up, it's all over. What's the point of arguing about it anymore? It's done. Let's just move on to game three and hope that they can actually take one at home.
Oh, you're saying the Draymond situation's all over, not the series.
Not the series, the Draymond situation. Yeah, it's just there's nothing you can do about it. No matter how much you want to think you have an impact by putting your voice out there in social media. Um, it's great if you want to in sports, and I know free speech is a whole thing, but it doesn't make as big of a difference as some think that it does.
No, tweeting doesn't do shit. I've realized that more and more in life. It just doesn't
Well,
matter.
it's a personal thing. I think it's like you let the thought get expressed to the world, and now the world knows what you're thinking about it. It's a whole thing. It's fascinating to watch. It's one of those moments where you watch it in real time, and you know that it's going to be just a heavy topic going for the next couple of days until the next game's played. You just know.
Oh yeah,
Ugh.
but even I Tom said it today. Initially, I kind of reacted with Draymond, you can't do that, and then he even said today on the show, yeah, at first glance it looked bad, but also Sabonis is guilty in grabbing his foot. So I don't think this is the most egregious thing that Draymond has done. He agreed with the flagrant two and everything, but let's move on.
Yeah, have to.
Any other NBA games or series that you've that caught your eye so far, Steven?
Not so much. Like the Eastern Conference is kind of. I mean, right now the Cavs are just taking it to the Knicks. I have it up on TV right now.
Yeah, no, I'm watching that too.
Whatever YouTube TV is, but it's pretty behind. But nothing in the Eastern Conference, and as far as the Western Conference, did not really catch Nuggets and Timberwolves because of the late start time. Like it was by the time I needed to go to sleep, it was already halftime. Like it's the only problem with waking up late. Warriors are the exception. I'll stay up late for them. I think the game ended at like 9:40 last night. But nothing has stood out so far. The only thing I guess the only thing that stood out is uh, is Russell Westbrook with his 19 shot attempts, only knocking down two of them or three of them or whatever it was, but ended up having the game sealing block and him
Yeah,
getting into a fight with the Suns fan or at least into an argument with the Suns fan and all
yeah.
that.
I want to get to that real quick. If the Suns fan said something deplorable to Russell Westbrook, then he has every right to react that way.
Yeah.
But if he simply just called him Russell Westbrook, he needs to calm down.
Yeah. Is that
Like,
what is being said?
well, that's apparently, I guess, what was said to him, and we don't know the whole story. So, and I know fans can say some awful shit sometimes, but if it's simply if the like, because I know when he was playing with the Lakers, like I remember him like doing a press conference at the end of the game where he was like, "Man, that's my family's name. How dare you disrespect that? Please, it is just a simple nickname. Relax. Russell Westbrook is not the end of the world."
No. No. And you know what another thing that stood out to me was well, that Sunday was defined by injuries.
Yeah,
Um
Giannis,
but
John Moran, Tyler Hero.
but it's we do this every single year, and we forget when talking about the postseason. There's no. I mean, I'm not going to say there's no player, but if you're going to create like a starting five, among all teams in the postseason, let's just say you take everybody, like Jimmy Butler has to be up there. Jimmy Butler going off for 35 against the Bucks without Giannis, like this dude in the postseason, Jimmy buckets really comes out when it matters. Love watching that dude play.
What
So
about
I think
Kevin
there's
Love
another
with
one.
them?
Kevin Love. What about him? What?
No, he's doing pretty well.
Wait, what do you mean, Kevin Love? When?
Well, Kevin Love won that playing game for him on Friday night last week, and then had
What
a pretty
happened there?
well. They were down in that game for most of it, and they came back thanks to Kevin Love.
I did not catch the playing games on that day.
I
I forgot
was
what I was doing.
I wasn't watching as well. I was keeping track, but no, I was watching what I mean, the Heat, scored a bunch of threes in their
Mm,
game against the Milwaukee Bucks, and yeah, Giannis, broke his butt. We think, or we don't know exactly what his tailbone, whatever injury he suffered. The expectation is he will be able to play, I think, tomorrow against the Miami Heat. So that I don't think will be that significant of an injury. I also think that the Bucks are just a better team, and they just had a fluky game one. Um, the Lakers looked really impressive against the Grizzlies, and that's a series that everyone thinks is going to be an upset with the Lakers advancing. So, and if John Morant has a significant injury with his hand, we'll see about that. I don't think he broke it, but he may be able to go tomorrow, but there's no confirmation yet. So, a lot of injuries going down. I will go back to that Suns and Clippers series. Kawhi Leonard carrying that team and having a great performance. It was fascinating to see Kawhi Leonard play Kevin Durant again, and just the back and forth nature of those two great players, two-time Finals
yep.
MVPs. And yeah, Kevin Durant and the Suns were 8-0 in the regular season when he was starting, but I always wondered if it was enough of a sample size for them to really get to know each other and be a good cohesive team together, because it did not look like that on Sunday night. It looked like, I mean, Kevin Durant got things going a little bit, but he got passive and was starting, throw the ball to Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Not much offensively from Chris Paul, but they need to find a flow. And I'm always fascinated in why that Kevin Durant and so many great players are so hesitant to move the ball as much as they should. If they did that in Brooklyn, they'd be a fantastic team. If they do that now with the Phoenix Suns, they're going to win this series. I don't know why they don't do that, but we'll see how well they gel together. And you know who does do that currently? The Denver Nuggets. And I
Mm,
have kind of slept on this team for most of the season. Like, I just didn't give credit to the top three seeds in the NBA because we haven't seen them do that. But watching the Denver Nuggets and their beatdown of the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's just one game. But I think it's pretty clear they are the best team in the Western Conference right now. From Jokic to Jamal Murray to the versatility they have off the bench. Like, I didn't even know Reggie Jackson was on their team.
mm.
They also got who's coming off the bench for them? What's the guy that played on the Nets? Bruce Brown, is that his
Bruce
name?
Brown. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's a good player. They got DeAndre Jordan, coming in for Jokic. They got a pretty good bench. So I kind of slept on them for most of the season and thinking that they were kind of be like, a Utah one seed, but they look pretty impressive. So I would give the edge to them right now as being the team, the most impressive team in the Western Conference.
No, they got a lot of guys who can score from a variety of levels. On their starting five, like, yeah, I mean, if you want, any one of them can knock down a three. Like, if you want, Murray, Gordon, Michael Porter Jr.,
Yep.
Kentavious Caldwell Pope, all of them can knock down threes if you want. And then yeah, Bruce Brown has that irrational confidence when he plays, but and sometimes it goes to the detriment of their team. It happened with the Nets during some series where it's like, okay, Bruce Brown, you got to stop taking shots in the fourth quarter. And you mentioned it is one game, and it's just so far. There's a lot of. We said at the beginning of before the playoffs, there's a lot of Utah Jazz thoughts in there. So I need to see them move further than just the first round against the eight seed.
Nope, I agree. I agree with you.
Because that
Did
Timberwolves team is just they're 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 just dead men walking. As if there's a worse way to put it,
no,
but
yeah.
like there's just no cohesiveness with that team. Everyone thought Gobert was going to be suspended after that whole thing. Slow mo Kyle Anderson seems to be garnering the headlines every single game, and he's coming off the bench. Like I don't know. They have not gelled, so we need to see a lot more from the Nuggets.
I agree, but it's been fun
Personally,
playoffs.
yeah,
It's been fun NBA playoffs, and hopefully, the play-in tournament is just as good next season. Or sorry, not the play-in tournament, the in-season tournament that we're going to have. Sounds like just garbage.
yeah. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to
What
that.
different jerseys, different venues, everything. Just I don't. Ugh.
Yeah, it's just not going to get people to watch. Should we get to a little NFL fuckery?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound excited.
Oh, I'm very excited. I can't wait for your offensive tackle breakdown. By the way,
Damn right. People, not a lot puts asses in the seats like offensive tackle breakdowns.
boy, can't wait for that. When I saw that on the rundown, I'm like, let's go. I need to get these takes on this offensive tackle.
You know what? Let's do it now because it's a position that has been neglected in draft evaluations, at least for
Okay.
me, because it's hard to look at offensive line film
Yes.
because it's kind of boring. But at the same time, I found a way to do it this year. So, like I said, Stephen, I'm not going to act like I watched 100 hours of NFL or no, sorry, college football tape on these draft prospects. I
Hmm.
looked at who are the top guys, and I'm just going to simply give you my evaluations of the offensive tackles in this year's NFL draft. Now,
Right.
I didn't go through every single offensive line position. I didn't look at the guards. I didn't look at the centers because those will be more day 2, day 3, etc. Um, picks. It's the big boys that will be taken in the first round as far as you know guarding the quarterback's blind sides. So the big guys to look out in this draft, I'll simply just say there's two guys that stand out above everybody else, and that is Peter Skoronsky from Northwestern and Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State. Peter Skoronsky played both guard and left tackle a year ago at Northwestern, so he is versatile and he's huge. And a lot of people say that he's just the best offensive line prospect that's been in the draft for quite some time. And he's maybe the best in this year's draft. He's got good
Yeah.
footwork, good handwork. He's going to be great for any team that needs a left tackle. And then Paris Johnson Jr. is right up there with him. It's kind of 1A, 1B a little bit. Just the thing with Paris Johnson Jr. is his handwork's not as good as Peter Skoronsky, but you can't go wrong with either guy. So
His
most like,
handwork.
what's up?
His handwork.
His handwork, yes.
Great hands. Inside the pads.
Yeah.
Push the
All
pile.
all the terminology you hear from Ron Jaworski and everybody else.
Great hips. How's his hips?
I haven't checked out the hips.
Oh, you
Couldn't
haven't
tell you
checked out the
about
Skoron. Oh
couldn't
man, the
tell you about the feet
Skoronsky
either.
hips. The Skoronsky hips, bro.
All right,
Anyway, continue.
don't humor me.
I'm
Steven.
sorry. I'm not trying to make a joke of this, but I am. Continue.
No, this is serious. This is serious draft deep dives. Please.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but yeah, like if there's one knock on Paris Johnson Jr., it's that his handwork is not the best, but that can improve over time. So real quick here, just other three guys to mention: Broderick Jones from Georgia,
Hmm.
really good. I think he played mostly right tackle last year with Georgia. Really good player. He's physically dominating. Um, the only thing about him is a terrible trait he has of lowering his head when he gets into contact. And that's going to lead to a ton of neck injuries and head injuries. It's a thing that I'm surprised that Georgia never coached out of him. But you watch the tape a little bit, and every time he blocks somebody to move them forward, he lowers his helmet down to get into that position. So not
Oof.
good. He needs to learn to not to do that. And then his other two guys, Darnell Wright from Tennessee, mostly a right tackle, and the other guy, Antoine Harrison, he's versatile in the sense that he plays left and right. But the thing with both of these guys is that they're solid pass blockers, not good run blockers. So they need to work on that. So there you go. As sexy as it was, that's your quick offensive tackle NFL draft deep dive.
So nothing on Cody Mach
No,
from
Steven,
North.
God damn it, I told you. I just looked at the top five guys.
What about Blake Freeland from BYU? Hmm. Early day 3 pick. You didn't do a deep dive on him?
Didn't do a deep dive. But you know what?
Ah,
I hear the guy that plays opposite of Paris Johnson Jr., who will go later in the draft, is huge. He's just really raw. But
hmm.
he's like He's like ridiculously huge. I don't know what his measurables are, but people are saying like he's just gigantic.
You talking about DeJuan Jones?
Yes.
6'8", 359.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Oof.
I wonder how he is on
Oh,
screens or pulling.
wow. It's a good question. I wonder what his hands are like, and his hips, and his feet.
All right. Some actual NFL news.
I love you breaking down offensive line play,
Yeah,
man.
I'm trying.
Oh my gosh, you're like Jeff Schwartz 2.0.
Not that much. Not that
Next thing
much.
you know, you're going to be making videos with like a pen, and you're just going to be taking a video with your phone, and using a little pointer,
Or
pointing out little things.
tweeting out about my farts.
Does he tweet about his farts?
Yes, he does.
Those are things you don't need to tweet. Schwartzy, you don't need to. You don't need to tweet about farts. May the
Exactly.
Schwartz be with you.
Jalen Hurts
Uh-huh.
got paid big time with a
Yeah,
5-year, $255 million extension with 179 guaranteed. And when people saw that contract, they were like, "Good for Jalen Hurts. He deserves it." And he's, I guess, I mean, I gotta look at the numbers here, but apparently it is the biggest contract in the NFL currently. So good for,
annually. Yeah.
well, annually, yeah. So good for him
Hmm.
on that, and he gets a good amount of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Not the same amount of guaranteed money as Deshaun Watson, but a good amount guaranteed.
170
And
million. So yeah, it's pretty nice. A little nice chunk of change.
exactly. So then, people then naturally say, well, what does that mean for Lamar Jackson? And apparently he was offered 200 million guaranteed and turned that down. And I would say this also. Jalen Hurts, prior to last season, everyone like didn't know if he could do it. Like we had Joe Fortenbaugh before the season started, and he was like, "I know about Jalen Hurts. He's not good. He is not the guy," and he was
Yeah.
wrong. He had a
Well, yeah.
great season.
Love Fortenbach. Okay. But he jumps the gun really quickly on quarterbacks. He said the same exact thing about Josh Allen after year two. I remember that going. I'll never forget. For some reason, I always remembered that from Fortenbach one year where he's like, Josh Allen, not an NFL quarterback. And that was, after year two. And it was warranted. I mean, you can't argue against it. And the same thing can be said for Jalen Hurts too. Like after
Didn't
year two, you could say like, okay, this dude's not ready for the NFL.
No, he wasn't, and he was incredibly inaccurate against the
Yeah,
Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that game. But he improved as a passer.
right.
He Let me ask you something. Have you seen this video of Ben Roethlisberger calling out Lamar Jackson? I shouldn't say calling out, but just talking about his game.
Yeah, talking about how no one fears him in the pocket.
Do you agree with that?
Uh, I couldn't tell like I couldn't tell you what other defenders are thinking. So I don't know if I agree with that or not. But I'd say they are more concerned with him possibly running RPOs as opposed to standing in the pocket. Sure, yeah,
So that's my thing, is that I think that clip has been just horribly taken out of context, because I've seen people then tweet out, "Oh, Ben Roethlisberger with a tired old take," and the truth of the matter is that is true. Lamar Jackson is a fantastic athlete, and he can run all over the field, and he is great at it with arm strength. And I thought he had at the beginning of the season he had a very good passing season, but I agree with him. I do not think that defenders fear him as a pocket quarterback. And that's the difference between Jalen Hurts and him right now. Jalen Hurts developed his game because he got on A.J. Brown, and he became a very good passer, pocket quarterback. Now, I know, and he's also extremely, fast and mobile, and he has that part of his game. But Jalen Hurts adapted his game to throw. And it was going to be arguably an MVP season before he got hurt. Um, Lamar Jackson, even with an MVP season himself, throwing 36 touchdowns, I never really thought that he was a accurate thrower of the football. And I think that needs to change in his game a little bit. And I think that could happen this year with the new offensive coordinator and getting Odell Beckham. I'm not saying he needs to do that to garner the new contract, but I do think that is just, something that if Lamar Jackson wants to be put in the same boat as Joe Burrow or even Justin Herbert or any of these other guys that get new contracts. He needs to adapt his game to be a better passer than he is a runner.
Yeah, I have a tough time with Lamar. I go back and forth because I agree with you to a certain extent, but then there are other instances where you watch him, and to be honest, you immediately pop up in my head whenever I see him playing well because you've never really been a huge Lamar Jackson
I'm not.
fan as a passer. So every time he plays well, I always think of you. So I go back and forth with it. Um,
It
I
goes
just
back to me and Tommy Call when he got drafted because I told him he would not be a first round pick, and Tommy Call won the bet. He was 32nd, so
you're
he was a
basically
first
Bill
round
Polian.
pick.
You're basically Bill Polian. You're basically saying he should
No,
have been
I
a wide
am.
receiver.
Oh, I am. I'm not suggesting the guy changed positions. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not that old school in the head. No, what I'm saying is that Lamar Jackson, I think, needs to develop his game more.
Yeah,
And this in the same way that Jalen Hurts has. He could do it. I think he has the arm strength and the ability to be a great passer, but I never thought he was that accurate.
no, and he hasn't been. There's certain times when, like, I can also picture in my head like him with a wide open Mark Andrews and just sailing the ball. You know what I mean? I always go back and forth with him because he's just so lethal with his feet. I don't know what this means for his contracts. Whenever I see that pop up, I'm like, why do we have to go from one player to the next? What this means for that next player? Like that's not the thought that entered my head. I was just like, wow, Jalen Hurts got paid. Damn. All right, like coming and like you mentioned, his rookie year, no one even thought he was, a starting caliber quarterback. And even back to year two, he couldn't beat the Raiders. He didn't look impressive. He just looked like another quarterback. And now he's making the most money in NFL history. I also think like, that's kind of it's kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's a phrase that's used to kind of justify how big the contract is, but the reality is someone else is eventually going to get paid more. So I think the Eagles found that it's a bargain to get him at this time before the market goes up with some other quarterback who's set to get paid. Like that's kind of the way I look at it too.
No, I mean you're right. I think that but I also don't think this deal is a bargain. I think that Jalen Hurts
Yeah, not a
proved
bar. It's certainly not a bargain, but it feels like they're avoiding a possibility where he'd want to be paid more in the future because his rookie contract it's not coming up that much sooner, right?
it was going to come up when in a year or so.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
but I will say this is a smarter deal than what the Cardinals gave Kyler Murray. Like they
Yeah,
have their own questions about Kyler Murray and they gave him a contract. Jalen Hurts proved it this year. He is like, yes, I will admit that when Jalen Hurts got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, I thought he was going to be like a Taysom Hill, where they were going to use him in certain packages and not necessarily be a quarterback.
right.
And he proved me wrong. He has been fantastic in passing this season. He had an MVP
Right.
caliber season. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader. Every soundbite I hear about with this guy is that he's the complete opposite of Carson Wentz. He was all about the team, and he was willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I think that he balled out and was so close from being a Super Bowl MVP, and they rewarded him, and they should. And he is their quarterback going forward. Like apparently, it was close to the Eagles were trying to get Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson didn't want to go there. He went to the Denver Broncos. So they avoided so much with just sticking with their guy, and it goes to show that guys can improve as quarterbacks. Like like you're saying, Fortabaugh thought that Josh Allen wasn't the guy in year two. Now it's like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are 1-2 in the NFL as far as quarterbacks. Guys can get better over time. So yeah, I'm happy that the Eagles rewarded Jalen Hurts for that.
Yeah, yeah, and I do not agree with anyone who was calling him overrated after the postseason last year. Disagree with
No, he's not
anyone.
overrated. No,
No.
he's the new era of quarterback. He arguably is the best quarterback in the NFC right now.
Yep. Yeah. He balled out in the Super
Balled
Bowl.
out. Real quick, just another bit of news today. The Steelers traded for Allen Robinson just a year after the Rams gave him a big old contract, but Allen Robinson had a very disappointing season with the Rams, so the Steelers traded for Allen Robinson. They're going to pay part of his salary along with the Rams, and it just simply goes for a seventh round pick. And the Steelers get a seventh round pick back in return as well. So Allen Robinson moving on to play with Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh.
An embarrassment for the Rams. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
well, they're kind of moving on from everything a little bit.
Yeah.
Steven, are you buying this rumor that's been going around that the Texans are not going to take a quarterback at 2? That they're in love with Will Anderson, and I will get to my evaluation of the defensive lineman in next draft because that's sexier. I know you. I know you can't wait for that one. But apparently, D'Amico Ryans, being from Alabama, he loves himself some Will Anderson. He watched every game this season. Or I shouldn't say that because he's also working on Saturdays getting ready for the 49ers. But he loves himself some Will Anderson. He would much rather have him as defensive end as opposed to, I think, arguably the best quarterback in this draft next to Bryce Young. It's pretty clear now that Bryce Young will be the first quarterback taken or the first player taken in this draft by the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. But there's now this new rumor going around, and it could just be a smokescreen, that the Texans and other teams are not as high as on C.J. Stroud as the media is. I don't know if I'm buying that.
I'm not buying that at all. It's lying season, dude. I'm not buying anything. Not buying anything at all.
Yeah, I know. I think it's crazy that the Texans would pass up an opportunity to draft their new franchise quarterback, and I think C.J. Stroud is just as good as Bryce Young. Now, are either guy as good as Caleb Williams coming out next year? Maybe not. But you don't know if you're going to be that bad again to be getting a quarterback in this situation. Now, if the Texans do pass on C.J. Stroud, the Raiders need to do everything they can to go up to 3 and take him. Because if that guy is going to be there at number 3, you go and get him. Like I know last week I said that I wouldn't draft any of these other rookie quarterbacks and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. C.J. Stroud is different. I think you can make the case that he's better than Bryce Young, and if he's available at 3, the Raiders need to go and get him. And it's different than Trey Lance. C.J. Stroud could beat out Jimmy Garoppolo in a training camp, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it all you need to watch is last year's national championship.
Oh, yeah.
That's all you need to watch. Like, C.J. Stroud is that dude. So I agree.
Can I get to these streaming things that I'm not too happy about real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Because you had a good. By the way, how was your niece's softball game? Did you avoid injury?
I sort of. A ball roll. Someone was playing catch next to us, and a ball rolled up next to the group that I was standing. I didn't sit down, and I just immediately bent over to get the ball and forgot that I had a broken shoulder. So that kind of hurt. So who knows? Maybe I broke it more. But I avoided surgery. So there you go. There's
good on that.
There's the good news. Anyway, continue. Softball game was all right.
Good. So NFL Sunday Ticket. Coming to YouTube TV. You and I both have YouTube TV.
Yeah.
And both of us have Red Zone, and that's a good way to watch football on Sundays. But it also would be nice to have the option to watch every single game that is available on the NFL docket, because now it's available on YouTube TV as opposed to DirecTV and having it in the dish and everything. It's a pain in the ass, and I know it firsthand. God, my roommate.
If I had the choice, I'd much rather watch like a split screen multi-view of games as opposed to a red zone.
Exactly. And I'll tell you firsthand, just trying to set up a DirecTV, system in my house back when I had roommates in my apartment in Austin. Whew, what a pain in the ass that is. Had to get like approval to get the dish on the patio, and because they thought the dish was going to fall over and hurt somebody. And then the long extension cord went all the way from the balcony to the living room to my room. So there was like just a big cord in the middle of our living room, and people would trip over it. It was not good. But I was selfish and needed to watch football. So there you go. So NFL Sunday Ticket is going to cost $349 a season on YouTube TV. If you get it before June 6th, it's going to cost $249. And it'll be bundled with Red Zone for $389, $289 if you get it. Then it gets super expensive if you're not a YouTube TV subscriber, so I have no idea how that goes. And it's all more expensive than what DirecTV cost customers with $293 a month. So I'm wondering, like, why did this need to be more expensive? Like, I thought it was going to be like a $50 add-on, but now that they're doing this, whew, that is super expensive to pay for just one season of football. And I'm contemplating whether or not I even want to do it, where I would just keep Red Zone and keep watching it that way.
Well, you got to find someone else to split it with, man. That's the only way you're going to make it cheaper.
So what are you saying? Should we come to
I,
a deal here?
no, I already got one with my brother, so you can find someone else.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
I mean, you could join. I don't. I mean, we do have like a separate whole family plan. So if you want to join in there, we can add you to the
If
docket.
Jenny will have me.
Jenny Langford, Ian Langford, Stephen Langford, Derek Papa on the very end. That's how it could go.
There you go. I'm one of the Langfords.
The only thing is though, with YouTube TV, I forget the Sunday ticket thing. During the postseason, they need to create the multi-view screen like they did in March Madness.
Oh yeah, for like basketball right now.
Have multiple sections. One for the NBA, one for the NHL. Like, I don't get why they don't. How they do this for March Madness and nothing else, I don't understand that.
Well, they definitely should do it for the NHL playoffs because it's very few where like tonight, like they staggered some games where it's Hawks versus Celtics on the same time as Knicks Cavs, but the NHL playoffs are all like that. They're all going simultaneously. So yeah, I agree with you, Steven. Like March Madness, it's crazy in its own right, and it's very popular, but they should offer this for every sporting event.
Yeah, agreed. They need it.
Real quick on HBO Max, they're going to change their name to just Max starting May 23rd. And I think hands down, it's the best streaming service we have out there right now. It's got the best shows. It's got the best movies on there. I don't know why they think that HBO kind of turns people off because I think that HBO's kind of a negative connotation with the shows that they have and the raunchiness, but I don't know why they changed that. I think it's because they added Discovery Channel to it or something. But starting on May 23rd, I guess it's going to be the same, but you can do like I want to say like I'm paying, I guess $10 right now for HBO Max, but I guess starting May 23rd, they're gonna do like ads with HBO Max or I guess Max. So like you could do ad light for $10, ad free for $15, ultimate ad free for $20 a month. Why are they fucking with a good thing here?
Because they want your money.
I know, but like, stop. It was good as HBO Max, and it was fine. I know they're adding stuff to it, but like, it was the you're running a good thing. Like, I think Netflix is fucking up with their you gotta get together with the group thing. Like, you can't have multiple passwords. I don't know when that's gonna go into effect. Hulu's got ads. HBO Max was perfect the way it was.
Yeah, I know, but these are the world really. I don't know. Like, how am I supposed to know what they're doing? Why they're raising the prices?
Yeah, we're just having a conversation here. Just tell me if you think it's bullshit or not.
It is. It is. Of course, it is. I should not be having to pay more money for their service. That's just it. Nope.
But you will.
Yeah.
Although
I won't, because I got someone else's sign in.
Oh, well, that's good too.
Yeah. The song "Save That Money" by
Lil Dicky?
By Lil Dicky when he says get logins from Netflix by my cousin Greg. Thanks, Greg. Like, that kind of thing. Love that.
Smart way to go about it.
Yeah. I don't even know which streaming services I own. I got like Peacock, which costs $5 a month. That's it.
I thought Peacock was free.
No, you can pay $5 for the premium so you can get live sports, and I needed it for soccer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Apparently, I think I mentioned this before, but I've been getting Paramount Plus free for like a whole year now.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, I know. Someone's gonna find out and tell somebody.
Don't say anything.
Speaking of Lil Dicky, have you been watching Dave this season?
I have, yes.
Did you watch the most recent episode?
Not the most recent. When's the new one coming out? I've watched 3 episodes, I think, so far.
Yeah. So the third one where he's in Atlanta and he's got to get the chain back for Rick Ross.
Yes,
That
yes,
that that, that was a pretty good episode.
it was. Though after the second and third season, Lil Dicky is not like as likable to me. I can't stand his character. Like I don't know if that's him in real life, but I can't stand him.
I think that's the point.
I hope so because I can't stand him.
No,
He's the
that's
worst.
no, that's kind of what he's getting at. Is that it was more apparent in the second season where he was kind of showing that his ego was getting in the way of his friendships with the people that were there for most of his life.
It's not even just that. Everything that he complains about, it's just he's yeah. I don't know. I'm watching it. I'm just like I don't like the main character. Like it's and I don't know
But
if
that's
that's a
the
great
point.
effect to have. Yeah, but I don't like. Why would you want that though? Like, there's nothing redeem. He doesn't have any redeemable qualities.
But that's the thing, Steven, is that there's how much television is out there right now where the main character is not likable.
Not a lot, but there's been TV shows like that in the past. Like Walter White, not very likable, yet like
You root for him.
you still root for him every episode. Like Dave, I don't really root for Dave. Like I just don't.
I think that's what he's trying to go for, though.
It's bizarre. I don't like that outlook. I don't like that approach.
I it it's honest. I think it's like in his way of being like I'm not the guy you hear in my music, but also I'm not the guy on the show too.
I hope he's not.
Well, everyone's a little fucked up when they're a superstar. Well, he's not a
Well,
superstar, but
it's
like a
not even just like
celebrity.
the way he. It's not even the way he treats people. It's just his whole mindset with things. I don't know. I can't. He just bugs me.
The bottom line is Gator steals the show on that show.
Yeah, Gate is hilarious.
Oh, he's for a guy that doesn't have any acting chops. I'm always blown away by his performance on that show.
Yeah, he's
Snubbed at
really
the
good.
Emmys. Snubbed.
Was he? Who was he snubbed by? Or
I don't
who
know,
won
but
it?
I don't think he even got a nomination for best supporting actor.
Gotcha.
And even the guest stars, this past episode, Rick Ross did a great job. Usher did a great job. Killer Mike did a great job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The whole premise of not understanding Killer
Twitter
Mike's
shit.
tweet. Yeah, that's really funny.
Um. All right. Anything else on your so-called mind, Steven?
Uh, Nothing so much. Uh, mm, Ooh, one of my favorite little repetitive video series that come out uh, year after year. British lads go to Coachella. It's really funny. I don't know. I get a kick out of it. It's just like a 52-minute video of these guys who have this really northern English accent, and they go to Coachella and they enjoy it, and it's an entertaining video. It's yeah. So I got that coming up there. That's pretty much it.
Oh, so it hasn't come out yet.
No, it has come out now after
Oh, okay.
weekend one. Weekend one was this weekend. Bizarre stuff coming out of this weekend. At least at the end of the night of the Coachella weekend. I guess Frank Ocean showed up like an hour late, and then would just kind of perform a couple of songs, not really say anything to the crowd. Camera angles didn't pick him up. A lot of people were pissed off.
I would be too. I would be too.
Yeah,
Any
he's got
holograms?
no holograms. No holograms, as is always promised every single year, but no problem. No holograms. Nope.
Good. What was it like 10 years ago when Tupac came out in that with
It
the?
was, yeah, it was 2012.
No, it had to be after that, right?
No, it was 2012.
Was it?
Yeah,
God, what a terrible moment in music history.
was it?
I did not care for that.
That was pretty damn cool.
I mean, it looked cool, but like, I leave Pac alone.
Or it might have been 2014.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Wait, nope,
2013.
2012. 2012.
I was.
Yep.
Yeah, didn't don't care for the holograms. Just let our dead stars be dead,
Okay, okay. All right, fair
and
enough.
that's what I'll leave you with today.
Let our dead stars be dead.
Let our
Wow.
dead stars be dead. All right, Steven. So next game is coming up on Thursday. That'll be game 3 for the Warriors and Kings. No, you don't want to do a show on Friday, so we won't do that. How about Saturday? Saturday tickle your fancy?
Saturday, what do we got going on Saturday? In the morning, I could do it.
Morning sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right then. We'll
All
see you
right.
back then, fans. Ernie, whenever you show up on this again. What happened to Ernie? He used to be our
He
guy.
thinks he thinks it's at 7:30, guaranteed.
This is, this is why I tweet this stuff out. This is why tweets are important.
It's
Contradicting what I
unbelievable.
said earlier.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable,
Unbelievable that
Ernie.
he doesn't show up.
Disappointing. Disappointing.
Mm-mm.
On that note, everybody, let's hope the Warriors tie this thing up. Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion, man. I don't know. You found the Mike Brown picture now?